Hey, this is OBLVYN, and I'm here to share some of my tips and tricks for playing the ROLI Seaboard RISE 2. So tip number 1 is playing runs or faster lines accurately. I tend to play a lot of melodic synth lead stuff, faster lines, instruments where the pitch is stepped or more quantized. And if you're someone who likes to shred, one of the challenges with the default settings is notes bending out of tune or bending into each other, especially with monophonic sounds. So the easiest way to solve this is by adjusting the glide settings either in the ROLI dashboard app or right on the Seaboard here on the first fader, which controls the glide sensitivity. By default, it's all the way up, which means it's going to be very sensitive to any sort of movement and it will bend easily. If you turn it all the way down, it's just not going to bend at all. But when it's all the way up, it's just going to be a little more difficult when you're playing faster lines to get it more in tune. Like for example, I'll just play this line. It's a little sloppy. If I set it all the way down, this is what it sounds like. I do want to add a bit of vibrato to my playing and some pitch bends, so I'm not going to turn it all the way down. I'll probably put it somewhere in the middle, and now this is what it sounds like. And now it's all more in tune. Tip number 2 is adding more melodic expression to your playing. So the Seaboard has 5 dimensions of expression, which are slide, glide, strike, lift, and press, which is aftertouch. But there is so much you can do with pitch on this instrument, and I like to utilize the glide and the slide functions a lot. And you can slide with the bottom ribbon or the top. And I like to use that for sliding into lines or sliding out of lines. Another one I like to use is vibrato, and it's pretty simple. You basically just have to rock your hand back and forth or wiggle your finger back and forth. Another thing I like to do with pitch on the Seaboard is bending into notes or adding little grace notes, either a semitone or a whole tone away. Another cool thing you can do with pitch, because it is MPE, you can play chords and bend individual notes in the chord without it affecting other notes within the chord. So I have a patch pulled up here in Equator 2. It's basically just a pad, and I'll play some chords and show you what I mean. So inside the top note or the bottom note. Or the entire chord. And that's something you can't really do with any other keyboard, so that's really cool. Tip number 3 is that the Seaboard is compatible with any third-party plugin. It does come with Equator 2, which is really cool. It has tons of nice sounds, and you can categorize those presets by what is MPE capable and not. So you can flip through sounds and be able to play them with all the dimensions of expression right away. With other third-party plugins, there are a couple extra steps that you have to take to make it compatible with the Seaboard. But once you have that down, you can explore any sound that you want in the plugin that you are most familiar with and just start messing around. Tip number 4 is expression mappings. Production, traditionally, you're limited to LFOs and automation and envelopes to modulate certain parameters that wouldn't normally be able to be performed with a MIDI instrument, but because the Seaboard has the capability of expressing in all these different ways, you can map some of these expressions to certain parameters and be able to play them. For example, I have this sync lead patch that I made in Serum, and normally the sync frequency modulation is controlled by an LFO, but I wanted to have more control of that, so I mapped the slide function or the slide expression to the sync modulation. So now I have control over when I want that sync frequency modulation to kick in. Another cool use of some of the expressions is to modulate a secondary layer within a synth to only come in when that expression is engaged. So for example, this is a patch that I edited within Equator 2, so it sounds like this. But when I slide up, it brings in the second layer, which is a pad. And And that's really cool for adding some more emotional expression or suspense into your playing. And my last tip, I think it's really important, is to clean the surface of the Seaboard regularly, because oils and dirts and particles build up over time, and it actually adds resistance when you're trying to move or glide around. It just makes it more difficult to play. And it's really simple. Just turn it off, grab a damp rag, make sure it's not wet, and just gently wipe the keys until they're back to their smooth, matte finish. And that's it for my tips and tricks for playing the Seaboard RISE 2. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. If you have any tips of your own, I would love to hear them. I'm really curious to hear what other people have discovered while playing this instrument. As always, thanks for watching, and see you soon.